and the stadium was already full up, and they were throwing, what were they throwing, Wixie?
We thought a base of water.
They were throwing carrots at Wixie because they thought it was a donkey. So, for the young boy, watching all our senior players getting abused, sworn at, spat at, wasn't it? Cans, bottles and everything, I think it was probably urine, yes. You're allowed to say piss. I think that was the most probably intimidating from my old career, I think, that night in Yugoslavia, watching QPR.
What about the time when you played against West Ham in the FA Cup and there were counterfeit tickets and you scored a great goal? Do you remember that? There were probably 35,000 people inside Loftus Road, they all around the side of the pitch.
Yeah, that was all my family. All supporting West Ham. No, I'll never forget that day, of course, with the police horses and of course all the Allens, you know, with Terry here from Dagenham. All the Allen family were over there watching that game. It was a big day for me and all the family, and to beat them. But to actually come onto the pitch that day, when I go back now, I can still see it. Because over the far side, what is it, the Ellerslie Road stand, it was 6 deep in people for the whole length of the field. How they got everybody in, I'll never know, but it was a remarkable game. The counterfeit tickets, it must have been 35,000 people, and it was, like you say, it was an awesome experience, and to score was even better.
And just one more question for you. Was there a time when you scored a goal that took us top of the league? Against Everton, a volley?
Yeah, I did handball it. Yeah, I did handball it. There's no doubt when it came out, it just popped up perfectly. And Frank Mclintock's good friend George Graham, who I think Terry appointed as the youth team manager at QPR. It was George that taught me through endless hours of practice at Greenford on that training pitch how to do those volleys. And I'm doing this with my arm because George Graham used to practice with his foot, and we used to have to stand in front of the 18-yard box and keep doing this like George. And Frank, you'll advocate this, and I'm sure Terry will. And that goal, after I handballed it, was down to George Graham and all the practice hours on that training pitch to take us top. And it was down, you know, to these, you know, people like Terry and Frank and George that allowed me to have that sort of career. So I'm always grateful to them.
Great stuff. Let's talk to Wixie. Wixie, what was it like to play under Terry Venables?
Well, the only way I could, you know, describe it really is the fact that we are not the biggest club. But
6'2", eyes are blue, Stevie Wicks is after you.
You've made an old man very happy. But what I will say is we aren't the biggest club, but you know, when Terry was manager, the way he coached us, we used to go to games far better prepared than the actual team we were playing, and because he was our manager, we felt as big as anyone, and we punched with the, you know, with the biggest, because he had this management skill of making us all feel special. The best manager I've ever worked with.
Hey!
Another game I wanted to ask you about was just after Terry left. Actually, it was a 5-5 draw at home to Newcastle. We were 4-0 down at half-time, and we came back. You scored, I think, the 4th goal with 3 minutes to go, equalised in the last minute. What was that like that day?
Well, there was a bit of a row that week actually with Alan Mullery, who came in, and this is a funny story actually, Mark, I'm sure you remember this. He said, when he walked into the club, he said, I'm not going to change anything. Whatever you did with Terry, you were successful, you keep it going. So when he started coaching us, we said, no, actually, when Terry did that, oh, right, do that then. Well, do that. So anyway, he came out, he said, right, he said, I've had enough of the name Venables. The next person that says the name Venables, I'm going to find 2 weeks' wages. And that week he was doing things, we go, say anything, I want to keep them out shut here, 2 weeks' wages. Anyway, we played at Liverpool on the Saturday, and no one had mentioned Terry's name all week. And we played at Anfield, and we drew 1-1. And he walked into the dressing room and he said, you never got a draw here when you played with Venables. And all the players went, 2 weeks' wages to that man. And just walked out of the changing room. He just walked out and just went and couldn't quite handle it. But he was a nice man. He was all right, Mullers, but he had a very hard act to follow, and whoever came into the club at that time was always going to have a hard act to follow.
And just one more question for you: is it true that there was a character in EastEnders named after you?
Well, I understand that Tony Holland was a big QPR fan, and evidently he was blind, deaf and stupid, and I was his favourite player. So he tried to break me into EastEnders, which was a nice thing.
Lovely. Let's have a word with Frank Mclintock now. And Frank, you came in at really a veteran stage of your career. You'd been a great captain of Arsenal. You'd won the double there as captain. But you came to QPR and you just kept playing your good football, didn't you? At a veteran age.
Well, it wasn't too difficult actually, because I came to Queen's Park Rangers not really expecting much at all, and I was terrifically surprised at the quality of the football people that was there, and the great lads as well. It wasn't just the football. The lads there with Davy Webb and John Hollands and Terry and all that, it was fun all the time. And first of all, it was Gordon Jago who was the manager, who was a really good manager. I think Bobby Campbell was his coach, and then Dave Sexton eventually took over. Terry had left just after about a year and a half after I first got there, and the team just gradually get better. Don Masson come on the scene. We had some fantastic players. We finished up with 10 internationals in the side, and we played the best football I think I've ever been in any team with in that particular season, and I thought we were really unlucky to get pipped at the post in the last game of the season, the Liverpool Wolves.
And certainly you played your part, and alongside you, David Webb, you had a great partnership, didn't you, in the centre-back positions?
Yeah, Webby was smashing, yeah. He was a terrific guy as well, and he was a great character. And we formed a partnership after a little while, but it was very good coaching. Terry actually was a player when I was there, but he was half the coach as well. And then it was carried on with Dave Sexton. We were very, very lucky. I had been with Dave Sexton at Arsenal prior to that, 9 years prior to that, and then meeting up with him again. It was the right time for Dave Sexton, and it was the right time for the players at Queen's Park Rangers, because some of the players at Chelsea didn't really respect Dave as much as he should have been respected, and they didn't go on very well. He came to us. It was a perfect time for both of us, and we played great football, as I said before. We played total football like the Dutch team, actually, and teams couldn't get near us, and it was so disappointing for me to get picked. I was 37 at the time, and to win a championship with a team that played that kind of football would have been fantastic, but we were a little bit unlucky.
And just finally, I think sometimes you used to be a roommate with Stan Bowles, and quite often you had to look after him and be his bodyguard. I think
Bowles is funny. Bowlesy always wanted the door or the bed furthest away from the door, and I didn't realise, because he was always betting all the time, you know, and people were always after him for money, and he was hoping I was going to bash the first guy that came through the bedroom door, so he's got time to run out the window and all that. Yeah, he was unbelievable. Him and Don Shanks, remember Shanksy? Him and Shanksy, the two of them, Jesus Christ. They went to a race. I remember them telling them they went to a race with two greyhounds in the back of a van, and when they eventually arrived at the race course, there was shit all inside the van, and two dogs had shit all over the place. I think they came last as well. Always tapping money, never stopped tapping money. And I went in the room with Don Shanks away from home. I finished up without my belt, without a pair of shoes, without a shirt. They were murder, they really were. Great players, by the way. I just finish off with that. I could not believe the quality of players that Queen's Park Rangers had when I left Arsenal, because I felt as though I was coming from a massive big club and I was going to try and find a few more years playing football. I was so surprised with the quality of football and the standard of people that was at Queen's Park Rangers, and apart from Terry and other people, Bowlesy and that I thought was absolutely brilliant, and Jerry Francis and Dave Thomas. I could keep on going on because, as I say, they finished with 10 internationals in the team.